Unfortunately, in the vast landscape of opportunities, there lurk deceptive schemes preying on the hopeful and eager. From fake job posts to identity theft traps, the risks are real. Which is why today I'm chatting with recently hired Jeremy Rivera, a developer advocate who shares the scams he encountered during his job search, where we'll discuss how you can keep yourself safe out there. So, Jeremy, can you share any experiences you've had with scams during your job search?
Yeah, I could very much clearly think of a couple very early on. When I graduated from my education, I had been very much openly applying to as many jobs as I could. And that was bad practice, retrospectively thinking about that. And I had gotten some responses, and I think they really preyed on my initial naivety with tech space. And one of them was an email questionnaire, and we went through a lot of different stuff like what technologies have you been exposed to? Have you played with this language? How many projects have you had? What were your salary expectations? And it was a pretty lengthy document. And then once I filled that out, I had sent it over and they responded, within due time. I would say between, 20 minutes to an hour. I was at the airport at the time. I clearly remember this. And they were like, hey, let us know, super fast if you're ready to jump on this opportunity. Well, we want you to know that you're hired. So at that point, that kind of raised a red flag because there was no phone call, there was no video conferencing, available between our relationship. We really had only been messaging for probably 3 or 4 days now. It was under the guise of a company that I had actually applied to, and again, there are, bad actors out there. So I had called up a friend who had been working as a software engineer for some time now. And he's like, he was like, I'm not really feeling a good vibe here. And lo and behold, I didn't respond. I did my research. The company had been flagged a couple of times on a spam site. And so I blocked the number, I blocked the email, and that was it. I had another company reach out via email, and it was a similar story, but slightly different. And I think they did a little bit better this time. They had the domain of the website, right? And I went to the website, I searched for the employees who worked there to see the domain of the email, and it was the exact same. So when they came forward, I had seen it, it looked very legitimate. But as I was emailing the individual, he did not want to set up a call. He was very adamant, like, no, we don't need to do that. I was like, no, no, we could just have a chat, and he's like, no. So I emailed, I don't know if it was the CEO at the time of this website. And I was like, hey, by the way, this person is using your email. I want to know if it's you or if it's somebody else. And he emailed me back pretty fast. And he was like, no, it's not us. We are aware of the problem. We have contacted the service provider, which I believe was Google Domains at the time. And he was like, this isn't us. We thank you for bringing it in. Can you please forward the information? And so I did that. And again, it was block, rinse, repeat, push that out. And then I really started to think about what my strategy was in terms of sending out these mass applications.
I want to tell you about something real quick that can really change the game in regards to your job search, because I know it can be overwhelming, but using the right tools can really make your entire experience so much better. That is why I recommend today's sponsor, Hunter, an exceptional tool that helps you track, organize, and visualize your job search to help you find your first job in tech. The Hunter Chrome extension automatically pulls job details from your favorite sites, so you can save them in seconds without interrupting your flow. And then if you've uploaded your resume to Hunter, their AI tools will tailor your resume for the opening and can even generate personalized cover letters for each opportunity, saving you even more time. And for the final touch, when you're ready to apply, Hunter fills out the form for you with a single click. No more tedious typing, just a quick, efficient application. And they have a very generous free tier where you can track up to 100 jobs for free. So there's really nothing stopping you from giving it a try. And today they're offering 30% off if you sign up for 6 months at a time. So at the end of the day, whether you're just researching new opportunities or actively applying, Hunter has you covered. So click the link in the description below to take control of your job search today. Those are two very interesting stories. So let's unpack a little bit there, and I want to summarize it to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. That one of those was an email that somebody contacted you proactively about out of the blue, but another one of those was a company you had actually applied to, and then they had responded with. Is that correct, or both of these were conversations that you initiated, or were they cold outreach from somebody else coming into you?
From what I could tell, it was either, let's say I had applied on Indeed at the time or LinkedIn. I was pretty heavy on those sites back then as well. I was trying to get my first job, right?
Mhm.
So they would set up a fake business profile, on one of these sites because those sites do not typically have great screening processes for those who want to post jobs. So they'd set up a fake one. They even connected it to a My Workday, right? So
Yeah.
I had submitted my information via My Workday, and then they had messaged me with the information. Hey, Jeremy, could you verify this? I'm like, okay, yeah, I can verify it. And then once we did that, that's when the next step would come, and it would be I've seen the document approach a couple of times in my experience. But they'd send me a document questionnaire, and now I'd see like if I get a document like what's your experience? What are your expectations? It's typically a immediate red flag for me because if a person or a company or an organization really wants to hire you as a junior, they probably want to hear your voice. They probably want to see your face, how you conduct yourself. There has to be some sort of human connection in that interview process. And now it's like whenever I receive an email, check the grammar, right? Because retroactively, I had looked at the stuff that were coming from these fake postings, and you can sometimes see if there's a missing R or a missing S, the grammar's not proper, or the sentence structure doesn't quite seem right. They're missing punctuation. They don't have an email signature. Some of those are very obvious things.
Mhm. Okay. And sometimes it's not just applications, it's not people coming out to you though, but sometimes they even spoofed the email domains of actual companies that you're talking to. So even that not necessarily is safe. So red flags here. You mentioned grammar to watch out for. You mentioned don't fill out any sort of spreadsheet questionnaire beforehand. What additional steps when going forward after these experiences? How would you kind of verify the legitimacy of a job posting then if they actually had valid listings on things like Indeed and LinkedIn?
Sometimes, and I know to the prospective listener that this might be a difficult thing, it's go on the actual website to apply, right? Because you have these marketplaces like Indeed, LinkedIn, even Google Jobs at times. If you could verify that that job posting even exists on that website, then it's more than likely legitimate. But with all the job postings that get posted each and every single day, there's not always a good way to know. So I'd say to most people I talk to now, hey, slow down just a little bit, look at the job that you're applying for on the website, and then go from there.
Sure.
Right? If
Yeah.
you still want to use Indeed or LinkedIn, because I know sometimes when you apply, the software will allow you to do like an auth search with one of those accounts and then pre-fill your resume. That's okay. That's fine. But verify with the site that this is a legitimate job posting rather than, a scam one.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned networking earlier in a bit. I think being connected with other junior developers and sharing this information in real time with each other is another way that you can keep yourself safe. Safety in numbers. If you identify a nefarious job application, well, then maybe you can share that and save somebody else as well, and vice versa. Uh, so let's
Yes.
so let's say you're putting a lot of personal information out there when you are applying to opportunities. Your phone number, your email. Sometimes they ask for a home address still. Um, how did you keep your personal information safe while you were applying for jobs? Did you do anything different there?
Let's see. When I kept information safe, it would be, and again, this depends on where you're applying and then how much you're applying. If you're spam applying, like some juniors do or some pre-juniors do, you may or may not want to include your phone number in the resume or your address. I do not include my full address in my
Mhm.
resume. I include the city or I include the nearest major city near me. And then if I get feedback from like, hey, if it's an on-site position, then yes, I will give them my address. But on my resume, I keep my resume strictly an email specifically designated for jobs, not my personal email. Just I made it. I have a domain for that specifically designated for jobs. I have my actual phone number on there because it's very easy to block, a bad actor. And I do not have my home address on there.
Yeah. Uh,
Right. So that's the only information. I don't have my birthday. I don't have anything else like that.
yeah, that's good. It's a good call. I like the specific job search email. I know some people have gone as far as to create with something like Google Voice, like I don't know, their own specific phone number that forwards to their real phone number, so that that ever gets compromised, they can just turn it all off and lose it all. But that's good advice there. So you shared some of your own personal stories. Um, are there any other examples of some scams that got caught up in with people that you're aware of in your network?
Yeah, I hadn't met this guy personally, but I know him because he's within my network and he's a network of a network. And then we eventually linked up, you know, in LinkedIn DMs and just talked about technology. But his particular experience was shocking because apparently he had went through that process. He had went through the process. There was an email exchange that was available. And it was crazy because he said that he actually got through video calls. He had got through a couple phone calls and it was a fully remote position. And he got to the point where he got an offer letter, filled out a W-2, sent over his bank information, and then the company disappeared. The company completely ghosted. And they took the site down, like all of it. They had a site up and I've seen it. I've seen it because I've had someone send me, hey, is this a scam? Sometimes they have sites. Sometimes they have landing pages. And then since it is a developer, they're looking for a developer job, they might go under the premise like, hey, we know our site doesn't look so great. That's why we're bringing you on
Oh
board.
man.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I don't know if these are all scams, but if a company is posting like, hey, we might have like 30 positions opening up soon, comment interested. And then you see a bunch of people, with their open to work banner commenting interested on it. To me, that doesn't seem legitimate to me because there's not a job posting. There's not an application process to it. It's like, oh, comment interested, send us your information after we DM you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a red flag.
They're just trying to
Yeah.
capture your who's interested and trying to take you out of the process of like a formal application. And
Yeah.
and for your friend that got caught up in all of that, do you know how that started? Was that him applying to a position, or was that him responding to an inbound email? Do you know how that got kicked off?
I could typically on LinkedIn, you could see at times when one of your networks will comment on something or when they engage with the post.
Mhm.
So he actually engaged with the post. I had seen it and then he reposted it with, hey, has anyone heard of X company? And then I commented, I was like, hey, I'm going to send you a private DM again, because I didn't do my due diligence to know about the company. But when I looked into it, it's like, maybe not. So we actually chatted on the phone. I think last Friday, it was recent. And I was like, hey, I would do your research because what I'm saying, you probably wouldn't like, right? I think a lot of people have had similar experience, because he's like, oh, this company. And again, it was one of the ones I mentioned, Synergistic IT. They reached out to me. They wanted to offer me a job.
Mm.
And I looked at he sent me the screenshots. He did the interested thing. They're like, hey, let's talk, let's chat. And lo and behold, it ended up being fake for me.
Yeah, and that's
So
incredibly unfortunate. And he's well not gonna be the first one, and it's gonna keep happening. So do you know what avenues your friend took to recover from that situation? You mentioned his bank account was now leaked and now, you know, compromised. How did he rectify the situation? Did the bank allow him to, change his account number, or like how did that all work? Do you know?
I believe the bank allows him to change his account number. Again, I think at the moment with everything with AI and everyone doing the robobots and everything, that the banks they've heard of this type of situation before, so it's still unfortunate, right? It's
Yeah.
still the gentleman lost time. He had to go into the bank and he had to do the process of getting cleared for another bank account, getting a separate route number. So that's paperwork and a couple hours of his life he's going to get back. And what he did to be active about it, instead of dwell on that blunder per se, he put it all up on his LinkedIn and he gave it to the community, he gave it to his network. He's like, hey guys, look out for X company. I don't remember the name for this one specifically. And he's like, he laid out the exact process that they used for him. And he told people, hey, be careful because these people exist. These
Mhm.
people are out there and they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
We live in an interesting time in which people do prey on naivety.
And we listed a couple in this episode right here, but they could just as easily take down that domain and just create another website under a different name and start all over. So it's less about the name even at this point in time, but staying engaged with other people in your network and just sharing that information in real time so you can stay up to date with the latest bad actors. So I don't want to spend the entire time talking about this negative part of your job search. Ultimately, you were successful, and I'm really grateful for you coming on to share your story. So I want to give you an opportunity just now, looking back on your job search experience. Were there any key learnings along the way, outside of the scope of getting scammed, that you think would be valuable for new developers coming into the market to know?
Yeah, if you're a new developer and you're going into the job force, I always am a big proponent of staying positive. We will typically hear a lot of news from various different sources that the job market is crazy right now and there's a big talent pool. But my biggest recommendation is to tailor your resume for the companies in which you apply to. Really look at the job posting, and then if they list specific technology that you may not have exposure in, do not apply. Like, go apply and then try to see if you could maybe make a small project, watch a tutorial, then do something yourself with that technology that's specified. And thereby you could hit that keyword, that key point.
Mhm.
I actually, the first developer job that I had gotten, it was because I had created a storefront and I utilized a Stripe API, right? So that one word is Stripe,
Stripe API. Yeah.
that yeah, they just pulled the resume. And he told me that. He's like, he got hired. He's like, what intrigued me was that you are used to this and we actually use Stripe heavily, on the day to day. So that was a good thing that I had learned after the fact, after I had gotten the job, that they are really looking at these keywords,
Mhm.
right? I don't think they're always looking at the 5 to 7 years of experience that is listed there, but that you have acquaintance and some sort of familiarity with the technology. Maybe not be a master at it, but that you have had exposure, you know your way around it to the point in which they could give you an assignment. They do not have to heavily train you because they might not have the resources, and then you could just go in and start coding.
Yeah, that's the big secret of it. You're not asked every time you list a skill to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10 how proficient you are with it. You can be, 5 years with JavaScript or, 5 days with JavaScript. It's the same when you put it on the resume. And that's what the interview is for. Interview is the opportunity for you to defend your competency in that skill, but easy enough to put it on just by doing, some quick Googling or, playing with it just as you mentioned. Well, that's great advice. Before we wrap up, though, I also want to give you an opportunity to give a shout out to any tools, people, organizations, anything that you found helped you in your job search journey that you want to highlight to the community.
I had a lot of help actually from the career services that my institutions provided. So I did graduate from university, um, but I also graduated from a software boot camp, and that's how I broke into tech. Right. So that boot camp is triple 10, and they have career services up to 6 months after graduating the program. I was fortunate enough that I got kind of forced into the career services because I got hired before I finished the program. Right. I was about halfway through the program, but I knew that I kept applying. If I kept applying, there is a numbers component to it. But statistically, I should get interviews sooner and then more interviews because of the quantity of applications I put out. Again, as you've seen with this interview, that's not always a good thing, right? Vet the companies that you want to apply to. Probably start applying to the jobs that you really want. Tailor your resume to that. But I wouldn't be in this position without the education that I've received. And I do think boot camps are still very relevant today in 2024. And I couldn't recommend Triple 10 more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing your story and helping keep other new developers coming into the space safe as they embark on their own job search journey. So, thank you for joining, and we will see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe, as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide.